Hello, guys. This is my awaited collaboration with Punch Perfect Boxing. How are you today, sir? You're good.
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we've got quite a few topics to talk about boxing. Lots going on. First of all, what's your thoughts about this Terence Crawford and Bob Arum lawsuit about this racism accusation? Any legitimacy to it? I reckon just all speculation or.
To be honest, I don't really know. I don't know if he's, got some kind of email thread or there's been some kind of exchange between them where he can prove that there has been something substantial, or whether it's just because Bob didn't always get him the best opponents. He was always reluctant to put him on pay-per-view, that he's associated it with that. I don't know, because Terence Crawford re-signed with him a couple of years ago, signed a 3-year deal. I know that he played quite a big part in getting his friend Jamel Herring onto Top Rank, and recently they've signed Keyshawn Davis, who Terence Crawford kind of played a big part in that deal as well. So it sounds like it's fairly recent, and I don't know whether it's just because they've split up now that that's the reason. So I don't really know until more details come out, but I'm sure we'll find out.
Okay, because Bob Arum's been accused of not being able to block. I think he said that there was no money in black fighters. So in terms of that, and also he did have Mayweather's. It was Mayweather's promoted before they split up. So is Bob
Yeah.
Arum not? Is he? I can't. I definitely will say he's racist, but maybe doesn't understand the hip hop market or the African American community, perhaps.
Maybe, but he's done a good job, promoting some of his fighters. Jared Anderson, he's doing a great job with at the minute. So I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe there is something that we don't know with Terence Crawford that eventually we'll find out.
Because Bob Arum's a clever man. He's a Harvard graduate and a former attorney. So do you see his court go any further? Did you see any? Does, does court have a chance of winning anything in court, or will just blow away?
Yeah, I'd imagine that Bob Aaron's team's probably got a bit of a tighter legal team. I'm not sure kind of what route Terence Crawford's gone down. I know a lot of people have said that they filed the lawsuit in Las Vegas, which apparently, to any legal expert, they're saying is a big mistake, because Bob Arum will definitely win a legal case in Las Vegas. So, yeah, I don't know what will happen, but we'll soon see, I suppose.
Is Bob Arum perhaps a dinosaur in boxing? Doesn't understand how the social media market works. Do you think Bob Arum just maybe is obviously he's almost 90 years old, and so he's been in boxing over 50 years? Is it perhaps it's time to call it a day and pass it to let the young guys like Eddie Hearn take over? Or
Yeah, well, if I was his age, I'd have packed it in by now, and with his money, probably be chilling or something like that. But he still has a passion for it. He kind of doesn't take as much sort of crap anymore. He just seems to straight away just say things how it is. So yes, that is what Bob is. You have to take him with a pinch of salt sometimes.
yeah, I don't think I think Bob Arum. I don't think he will give up boxing until he dies. Literally, I think boxing is in his blood. I think that's one of the things. Is his
Yeah,
passion. He likes to be on top, and he won't give up till the day he dies. So I can't
exactly.
see. But even though he's 90 years old, I think Bob Arum is one of those guys. He won't give up. Never.
Mm.
In regards to the age situation, who do you think training will be? Do you reckon it will be Ronnie Shields? Do you reckon it will be Robert Garcia? Who do you think what age this new trainer will be?
So I think he's somewhat, just through rumors, just through things I've heard in interviews and stuff. It sounds like it's narrowed down to Ronnie Shields or Robert Garcia, but I just, for some reason, I don't see him going with Robert Garcia. Robert Garcia's stable is kind of loaded at the minute, and I don't see that as a really good fit. I think they've said that the person that he will be training him has to come over to the UK. He's not necessarily going over to the US. So I'm not really sure who he's going to go with. I'm sure we'll find out in probably the next couple of weeks. But gut feeling is Ronnie Shields at this
Okay.
point.
It does make sense. One of has got that legacy as a heavyweight trainer, whereas Robert Garcia has no experience
No.
training heavyweights. It doesn't make no sense because he's known for training smaller guys.
Yeah.
Would they just choose Robert Garcia based on because Robert Garcia got a higher profile, or is he's more of a celebrity trainer, or do you reckon he would go for more experience and go for what he shields?
I think the only reason he'd go for Robert Garcia is because he's a stereotypical aggressive, trainer. Like all his fighters have a
Mexicans, no trainer, stay Mexican
yeah,
style trainer.
a lot of his fighters, the Marcos Maidanas, the Brandon Rioses, even the Virgil Ortiz, he has a lot of he teaches an aggressive style of fighting, and I think AJ's got it in his head that to win this fight he needs to be aggressive. So maybe it's just that. Maybe he just thinks I need to pick the most aggressive trainer out there.
Okay, definitely. Do you think AJ definitely needs Robert Cocker is definitely not the guy for AJ? He needs a new trainer.
Yeah, I've been saying it for a while. I do think he needs to pick up on some new things. I think around the Ruiz time was where it became an obvious change where he could make it. But I was saying it even before. I think it's very difficult to stay with an amateur trainer all through your pro career. I think you've at some point you've got to switch it up and you've got to start to learn new things. Lennox Lewis said the same thing that, AJ needs to go out and find something new. And I think now's the last time really that, it's the last resort at this stage. He should have done it earlier, but he needs to do it now.
Yeah, I think AJ needs somebody who can bring his old style back of being very aggressive and more of a brawler. Because AJ is not the best boxer and he can't box a master ball like he used to. Because AJ needs to the only way AJ can win is if he knocks you to spark out. So he needs a
Yeah.
trainer that can bigger, far more aggressive and less technical, more of a brawler approach to his style to beat Usyk. So that's the way AJ can win if he knocks him out.
Yeah.
In terms of AJ admitting that Tyson Fury affected his mindset. Do you think AJ is psychologically weak by Fury's comment? Because apparently, when Fury accused about AJ being a soft builder, that got to him and that persuaded him to take a more of a technical approach to his style, especially with the rematch.
Yeah. I think AJ gets affected by everything that's said about him. He comes across as someone that does overthink a little bit. He does listen to what people say about him, whereas I think with a Tyson Fury, it just goes in one ear and out the other
Yeah,
because
definitely.
he doesn't really care what he says or what people say about him. Whereas I think Joshua genuinely cares, and I think part of that comes with he's got more of an affiliation with his fans. He's got an awful lot of fans, and I think he tries to be transparent. But in that, he's just become a little bit. He listens to too much, in my opinion, and he overthinks things and he dwells on it a little bit. So it wouldn't surprise me, if one of them did a call out video to each other, I think Fury would laugh and just respond. I think if it's the other way around, AJ doesn't respond, but he definitely thinks about it and it winds him up a little bit.
So what's AJ trying to do? Is he trying to be a world man now? Trying to be, when he's saying he looks up to people like Nick Barnes and Frank Lucas and Larry Hoover. What's all this, trying to be a gangster now? What's this coming from?
I don't know. He seems to go back and forth. Like obviously in the early part of his career, he was very media trained coming out of the Olympics. He was
Very PC friendly.
he was taught how to approach an interview, how to speak to get fans on his side and stuff. And after the Ruiz fight, he sort of neglected that and kind of came with a I don't care approach. And then the Usyk fight, he went back to being, friendly and positive and shaking hands and smiling, and then loses and then goes back to, I think people, you either in a character or you're not. You're either, a Josh Taylor type that no matter who his opponent is, whether he likes him or not, he's intense, he's in your face and he knows he's going to fight you, he knows he's going to beat you. Or you're a Nonito Donaire or a Manny Pacquiao that's just always happy, always smiles, and that's your character. You can't be in between. You can't pick and choose when you're happy. You can't pick and choose when you're angry. Joshua just needs to just relax, just be himself. If himself is the media trained guy, or himself is the roadman kind of angry type, then that's fine. Just pick one. Just pick the one that you are, and just go with it. I think.
Absolutely. So AJ needs to, be himself and just, definitely just, try not stop trying to be a cause pleaser and try to be so politically correct. Just, be his own man. In regards to the Tyson Fury Dillian White, does the fight happen? And if it does, why do you think it will happen next?
To be honest, I don't know at the minute. I mean, a lot of people kind of are more positive about it than I am. I personally believe that Tyson Fury doesn't want to fight Dillian White, not because he's scared and not because he thinks he loses, because I think he beats him. And I think he probably, in himself, he definitely thinks he beats him. But I just think he wants something bigger than a Dillian White fight. I think he wants undisputed, or he even wants AJ. I think it's why he's flirting with the rumors of Francis Ngannou. And I think at the minute, all these negotiations are going on and there's talks back and forth. I reckon Tyson Fury's not really playing a part in any of it. I reckon he's just leaving it to Bob and Frank and Eddie and Dillian and just letting them do their thing. They're all kind of winding each other up. And I reckon he's just sitting back and whoever he has to fight, he'll just fight at the end of the day.
Do you think Fury will fight White next? Because he's announced the fight date on March 26th, or would it be the rumor, Robert Helenius and Andy Ruiz in March?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if he's allowed to keep his belt if he does that because the WBC said he can, but Eddie Hearn said that there's a stipulation that they've kind of pushed in the arbitration that means he can't do that. So again, I'm not sure what's right, what's wrong. I don't know what's in the contract, what's not in, so it's so confusing. Gut instinct, I just don't feel like his next fight is Dillian White. But obviously, if things will go to plan, it will be Dillian White.
Do they fight? Regardless of what happens with the purse bid, do you think they will definitely fight?
Yeah, I think purse bids is the thing that makes it likely. So if it goes to purse bids, I think Dillian White will be happy because I imagine Eddie Hearn will bid huge, and that bid will cover Dillian White's purse that he wants. And if it's anything above that, then they're both laughing because they're both going to get, if a Triller comes in with an even higher bid or whatever. So I do think that a purse bid is the best situation here.
If it goes to purse bid and Eddie bids it and wins the purse bid, any chance that Fury revocates his title or no?
Maybe, or the WBC make him franchise or something like that. I think it's
Okay.
anything is possible with Fury. Like he doesn't follow a rule book, he doesn't follow a script. And the thing is, even if he does vacate, I don't think he won't see it as I'm not fighting Dillian White or I'm ducking Dillian White. He'll probably go and do something else. He'll go and have another big fight or something like that. So yeah, you never know with him.
Absolutely. And I'm just trying to think now with Fury and White, if it happens, do you reckon it will happen in the UK or was a chance? Because the rumor might happen in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. I to be honest, like it should happen in the UK. Like
Yeah, it's all
if they
British.
want to maximize like the potential of it, it should be in the UK. But again, if Eddie Hearn says, I'm going to put down a ridiculously big bid for this fight, he may do that in coordination with Saudi Arabia, potentially backing it and giving him the money for it. So who knows? You never know. To be honest, it should be the UK, but
If it does happen, but can it happen in the zone? Can Eddie afford his purse bids? Because this will be probably the biggest fight on the zone, definitely since Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo. Will it have to be a
yeah,
lot on pay-per-view?
yeah, it will be pay-per-view. They'll find a way to do it on design pay-per-view. I think that's why they're flirting the idea. They're saying that White versus Fury and Joshua Usyk 2. Eddie Hearn has said the reason that they're looking to implement pay-per-view for DAZN is that they need to win those fights on purse bids, basically. If they want to host those fights on their broadcast channel, they need to have a pay-per-view offering to be able to recoup their money.
You don't think BT would put a big, purse bid for that? BT
Mm,
Sports.
maybe. I mean, I don't know if you've seen today, but DAZN are apparently buying BT
Oh
Sports.
yeah, I've heard
So
of that. Yes.
I don't know. I don't know when that comes into effect, if that plays a part. Frank Warren, just from everything I know, and Bob Arum as well, don't particularly tend to put up a lot of money for fights. They're very stringent with it. You see it with Terence Crawford and
Yeah,
Lomachenko in the
and Josh
past.
Kambosos and Tiafoe Lopez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, if someone's going to put up big money, it's going to be Eddie Hearn.
Okay, definitely, definitely. And what's your thoughts about I was going to ask you about the recent pay-per-view numbers regarding Lose All T. Charles Martin, apparently only 25,000. There's a rumor about no, that there's this whole thing about Al Heyman might be running out of money in terms of the reason why he's putting all these pay-per-view fights, that Al Heyman is losing a lot of money regarding the PPC platform. Do you think there's any truth to that?
I don't know about the kind of Al Heyman side of it. It's being widely reported, and a lot of people in America that I've seen on YouTube sort of seem to really believe it because he does put up crazy purses for some
Yeah,
really
he pays his fights
mediocre
very well.
fights. Yeah, which is obviously a good thing, but it can come back to bite you in the backside as a kind of a business move. But in terms of the pay-per-view numbers, again, like I mean, me and you could have told Al Heyman that it wasn't going to do particularly well. Lewis Ortiz
Absolutely.
versus Charles Martin. When it was announced, we all laughed. Why is that unpaid? I
Yeah,
mean, could you imagine if
it's so
Eddie Hearn
obvious.
did that in the UK? Like it would
Absolutely.
get slated.
It's so obvious. And also the rumor between there's might be some beef going on between Mayweather and Al Heyman. Apparently Mayweather hasn't didn't get his return on investments in regards to PBC causing issues with them because Mayweather was very annoyed that Al Heyman paying Canelo 50 million to fight Killer planned. and he obviously that he's return on investment. So do you think that there might be some truth to that? Because apparently Mayweather and Arum have got some beef between them, some tension over
Maybe
money.
they're both, really big businessmen that might be having those type of arguments at the minute. I don't really know too many details on it. I don't think that'll impact Al Heyman too much, other than Tank Davis, because obviously he's tied to Mayweather Promotions. But outside of that, it wouldn't be too big of an issue, I don't think.
Is there a feature in PBC? Or
Is there what? Sorry.
a feature in PBC? Do you see the PBC perhaps collapsing like HBO did with boxing and like ITV did with boxing years ago? Is there a feature in that platform?
I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. There's a lot of reports that they're not doing particularly well, and there's also talk because PBC do they work with Fox and Showtime, and they
Yeah.
split their shows. There was rumors that they would be coming off Fox to go into Showtime full time. So who knows? I mean, I'm sure we'll find out in the near future. But
Because he's making the money really now. Apart if Canelo obviously doesn't fight, if I guess if I Charlo in May, but apart from Canelo, Mayflower, he does exhibition fights, he's making the money really. Tanks, recent fight was either quick flopped as well. So what stars have they got really at the moment? Apart from maybe Abel Spence, you could say he's a star, but I mean now it's not really making the big bucks for them.
well, he's a star, but they pay him an awful lot to be a star. And he doesn't do amazing numbers. Like, he does okay, but like he's not Canelo level. And I think Canelo's the only one that can really drive in that money. And that's probably why we're seeing this Charlo fight being rumored, because that's the biggest fight available on PBC at the minute. Him against Charlo, him against Benavidez. So maybe that's the reason we're seeing this, because although Spence is a star, let's say what you want about him, he is a star. He's not bringing in life changing numbers into that platform with what
Yeah.
they're paying, and they pay him 10 million a fight to fight Danny Garcia and people like that. They're not amazing. You should be getting that sort of money to fight Crawford and
They
people like
tell
that.
me I thought
So
you pay maybe around 5 million mark.
no, he got something like 8 or 9 million for Danny Garcia, and
Wow.
that doesn't warrant that. He doesn't warrant that purse for that fight, in my opinion.
Okay, okay. And in regards to PBC, what do what do you think the reason why Canelo changes? By sort of fighting Luka Maccabi for the cruiserweight title, why is he fighting Jamal Charlo in May? What do you think the decision between Canelo is it because Al Haymon begged him off and off he can't refuse? What do you think Canelo's decision? What's the logic behind it?
I think there's two parts to it. So one of them is when they had the WBC convention at the end of last year, Makabu wasn't scheduled to have his mandatory at that point. And now on the 29th of January, he's got his mandatory fight with Tabiso Machunu. And that fight is supposed to be happening. It's managed by Don King. Don King promotes Makabu. So I do wonder if Canelo just doesn't want to work with Don King. That could
Okay.
be a very logical argument. And I think the other thing is, like we're saying about the PBC potentially struggling and stuff, Charlo, although it wasn't originally perceived that way, is actually the biggest fight in America for Canelo. Ahead of, if you go to 175, it's two Russian fighters that hold belts in Bivol and
Yeah.
Beterbiev, who aren't particularly big in America. Obviously, Joe Smith, who's not a big name. Benavidez is a good fighter, but not a big name. Charlo is an even bigger name than Caleb Plant, and Caleb Plant versus Canelo did massive
Yeah.
numbers. So maybe PBC are just giving him an offer he can't refuse, and he's choosing to take this one now. And PBC has seen it as a bit of a savior to their platform.
Absolutely. So going forward, if Canelo, I definitely think Canelo beats Charlo. Probably, probably be on point late stoppage. Do you think Canelo maybe stays at PBC? Maybe fights Benavidez next, or the Charlo brother? Do you reckon Canelo and or him could be buddies? Having a relationship.
Yeah, well, they seem to be looking after him. He said, they really looked after me when I fought Caleb Plant in terms of all the business. There was no hassle or anything like that. So again, if Benavidez, they come up with an offer that he can't refuse for Benavidez, I think he sees all of these guys as easy money. So I think he'll take any of those fights available to him. And yeah, I mean, he's going to get a lot more money fighting Benavidez on PBC than he's going to get fighting Bivol on the Zone or Beterbiev on
Or
Top
Andre.
Rank. Yeah, these, I don't think those guys are quite putting up that money. So yeah, PBC could be the way forward for him.
I'm guessing also, I think it kind of probably makes more money fighting on pay-per-view than he would on the Zone, because Zone still is subscription based. So
Yeah. Yeah, and we see the big stars, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao ended up on PBC as well. We say about them overpaying, but they overpay the big superstars as well. So Canelo might just follow that lead.
absolutely, absolutely. And what's your thoughts also on Liam Smith versus Jesse Vargas fighting being postponed now because Vargas got COVID? Was that a good fight? Were you looking forward to that? Or?
Um, Not particularly. Like it wasn't one that I was desperate to see. You know, sometimes we look at a weight class and say we want to see that guy versus that guy. It wasn't really that for me because Jesse Vargas, in my opinion, is a welterweight, and I don't really want to see him at light middleweight. But I'm interested to see what Liam Smith can do. Always involved in fun fights, and I think in terms of a British fighter, he's one of our better talents. You know, he's competed at world level. He's been competitive at world levels, held a world title. So this isn't the fight I would have picked for him, but in terms of a name, Jesse Vargas seems to have a name. So
Yeah, I think Liam Smith should have set aim for the Kell Brook fight when he had a
yeah,
chat when he had the opportunity. That'd probably been more intriguing
yeah,
fight because Kell Brook is really again. But Kell Brook is really a 154 fighter. Like middleweight. Well, Vargas is too small to be in a super welterweight. So Kell Brook will probably be the most suitable fighter definitely for him.
yeah.
And what's your opinions about Fury accusing him Usyk of being a PED user? Those random um you know rumors.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just fury. It's just fury just saying whatever pops into his head because, yeah, Usyk, never been associated with PEDs. I know in his faith and just the way he trains, I know that's not something he'd ever delve into. So it just sounds like Fury just talking rubbish again. And it's very rich coming from him when he's failed a PED test before. So
Okay, that's good. That's good. And I'm just curious. What's your predictions on Khan versus Book? For me, it's all down to what Book has left in the tank. If Book can make 149 smoothly, then he knocks Khan out. If not, then Khan maybe probably stops him late.
yeah, so look, I'm very similar to you actually. It really worries me that 149 limit because that's awfully close to 147, which is Brooke is he looks like an old drained man when he's at
Yeah,
that weight now. He
definitely.
really does struggle. In terms of the stages they're at, I think Khan's speed decline is probably more of a problem than Kell's physical decline. I think Kell can still time his shots, he can still set them up, the power will still be there. But I do just wonder if physically he's broken down a little bit. I mean, that's both eyes that have gone now. The Terence Crawford fight, as nice as that shot was from Crawford, it wasn't by any means a knockout type punch. It was just a kind of short from the elbow type jab that really hurt Kell Brook. And it does make me wonder if the legs are just gone a little bit. And
Yes.
that really worries me. But he's still good enough to set up Khan because listen, Khan's got his vulnerabilities. His speed is not going to be what it once was. So I think anything could happen in this fight. They could both knock each other out. They could both win on points.
In my opinion, whoever loses with ties, if Khan wins or Book wins, I think if the Book wins, he'll definitely fight Conor Ben just for another
Yeah.
payday. But if Khan wins, does he retire, do you reckon, or does he take a risk with Conor Ben?
No, I don't. I don't think Khan fights Conor Ben. The only one I do see is Kell Brook. I think Kell Brook could be tempted by a big payday to fight Conor Ben, but the type of payday you'll need to give Amir Khan for that sort of fight, I just
Probably at
don't
least
see that.
5 million minimum plus 5 million.
Minimum, yeah. He's earned big figures for years now. He's had his own reality shows. He's been on I'm a Celebrity. He's a celebrity more than a boxer, so his fees are massive. Whereas Kell Brook, I think if you chuck 5 million at him, he'll take that fight. So yeah, maybe that's possible.
Okay. And I was going to say, what do you think of were you surprised about Josh Warrington fighting Kiko Martinez in March 26th? Were you surprised that what's his name, Kiga had to take the rematch clause and didn't fight him again? Or
No, so I wasn't surprised that Galahad's not taken it because his last two fights, even the Jazza Dickens performance, Galahad, the Kiko Martinez fight, he looked very drained, and both of them weight wise. So it's felt like he's going to be moving up, and he's needed an excuse. And from what Eddie Hearn's saying, Kiko's conditions for a rematch where we have it in Spain, and the money's not really there to have it in Spain to pay Galahad. So I think he's got the best of both worlds, Eddie Hearn. I think he's played this really well. He can get Josh Warrington, one of his fighters, another world title shot. He can push Kid Galahad up, but not just push him up. He'll push him into the IBF mix where there's Cordina and Zelfa Barrett, who are going to be fighting Ogawa for the title. So he's getting him pretty much a guaranteed shot as well within the next 12 to 18 months. So I think he's just played it out really well.
Okay, and again, I think Eddie is happy that Warrington's fighting for a title because Warrington is much bigger star than Galahad. Galahad is a redo crowd, while Warrington does massive crowds. So in Eddie's favor, he wants one of his crowd players to win the title, so he can take things further.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you see that fight going?
What, the Kiko Martinez, Josh Warrington one?
Yeah,
I lean towards Josh Warrington just because I think it's easy to look at that Martinez knockout and be impressed, but he was getting pretty severely battered before that.
absolutely.
So I do think that if Warrington plays it safe, he can get the win here. I think he's
Yeah,
still
definitely.
got enough.
Yeah, definitely. I think Warrington, if he's not washed up, he will beat Martinez on points.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I agree with that.
And what do you think of I was going to say, what do you think of UGAS and the Spence happening in April? If Spence wins him, do you reckon any chance of fighting Crawford from Disputed or no?
I don't see it personally. I just think there's ego on both sides. I think Spence and Crawford will not budge an inch when it comes to negotiations. I also feel that just from listening to the PBC's spokesperson, Tim Smith, saying that the money's not there for Crawford, I just don't think they're ever going to meet a happy place where they just decide to fight. I think they'll both find something they dislike in the contract or the negotiations. They both see themselves as the A side. I don't see how they
Even
ever
if
work out.
Crawford signs to PBC, he's also the fight happening still.
I still don't, to be honest, because it sounds like it's a money issue. And if it is a money issue, I just don't see either of them ever accepting being the B side. And I don't think either of them view it as 50-50 either. I just don't, unless it gets ordered and it's taken out of their hands, I just don't see how it works.
Okay. Unless on the other chance, I mean, they may fight if the old men are looking for one last payday, I guess.
Yeah.
That will happen. It's sad, but unfortunately, boxing's full of politics, a lot of egos, and a lot of
Yeah,
petty stuff.
absolutely.
What was I going to say? Is there anything else you want to talk about? Not today, boxing, any other topics?
I think that's kind of the current things that are going on at the minute. Obviously, we've got some fights coming up now, which is nice because January's been very quiet. But
Yeah,
looking
February
forward
looks,
to.
hopefully February is a good month, and apparently, Eubank is fighting Lee Mills on February the 5th, so hopefully that goes ahead in the box in February. We'll be, back to normal in terms of fights and
Yeah,
entertainment.
hopefully.
You mentioned before we called this video that your father used to be a boxer. Oh, did he? Your father used to be a boxer.
Yeah, amateur boxing that is. But yeah, he boxed for pretty much all his teenage years, and he was a decent fighter. And that's kind of how I got into it, seeing the trophies and
Okay.
certificates and
How old are you,
medals.
may I ask?
23.
Did you ever consider boxing yourself when you were young, when you were in your teenie? Would you ever into amateur box sparring or?
Yeah, so I gave it a go for about a year and a half, but I played football at the time. And the problem was my dad couldn't take me to everything, but football, there were other parents that could take me, whereas boxing, I didn't know anyone there really that could
Oh, okay. You have
get
that
me there.
connection.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it just became football was the choice. I was definitely better at it as well. So
And when you were younger, what fighters were you favorite? Were you to Nas, Ricky Hatton, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson? What boxer did you look up to when you were younger? What were your first memories of boxing?
So Floyd Mayweather, to be honest. Yeah, Floyd Mayweather was the guy. Manny Pacquiao was the guy. They were the first real superstars that I got up in the early hours of the morning to watch. And then kind of more into my teenage years, I think British boxing finally found some life again with Froch versus Groves. I think that really reignited everything, and Joshua coming in off the back of that really helped. So I really look up to Mayweather, I look up to Pacquiao, and Nonito Donaire is one of my heroes as well. So yeah, look up to all those guys.
Yeah, for me, my boxing heroes are. I'm a '90s kid. I'm 31. So my heroes as a kid was Nas, Prince Nassim. I was
Yeah,
obsessed with Nas as a kid. I love
yeah,
talking. Nas also was into. I was a big, Mike Tyson guy as well as cliche as sales Mike Tyson. Did you follow any of the heavyweights like Lex Lewis or Mike Tyson, Ali? Did you follow any of the heavyweights when you were younger?
Yeah, so I've like one of the things that my dad used to show me was history books, like boxing history books. I did used to look back at all the old fights, and I always used to ask for DVDs of the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila. And that's one thing that I've always done is try to understand the history of the sport. So a lot of great fighters I check out. My favorite heavyweight's Joe Lewis. So yeah, I've always kind of gone back through the history.
The Brown Bomber. The
Yeah,
Brown
exactly.
Bomber. And in terms of fight boxing today. What do you think the issue of boxing is? Because in my opinion, one of the issues of boxing, other than too many belts, too many promoters, is I think, especially with the American boxers, everyone's trying to be Mayweather in terms of everyone wants to be undefeated. So no one wants to risk losing. No, if you lose, they think, oh, my career's dead, or no one wants to take me seriously now. My payday gets lower because I'm losing my old. So what do you think the issue with boxing nowadays is? The issue with current boxing?
So people are obsessed with their zeros, like you say. They're in more than one way. They're obsessed with the zero on the record, but they're also obsessed with the zeros on their purses. I think money overtakes legacy nowadays, and I think people are too scared to lose their unbeaten record. I think those are the two big issues for me.
And you think this YouTube thing is good for boxing? People like Jake Paul, Logan Paul fighting, is that good for boxing? Does that bring new fans to the sport, or are you just a gimmick in your view?
So I don't mind it if they're fighting each other or they're fighting these UFC guys or they fight retired boxers. I don't mind any of that. For me, it's when we've seen Marius Breidis this week, when you're seeing current world champions
Yeah,
not fighting other world champions and choosing to pursue a Jake Paul or a YouTuber, that's bad for boxing. But otherwise, I don't really complain about it because it's almost separate. So I don't mind it too much. But when it starts becoming integrated, that's where we're going to have issues.
absolutely. Yeah, because like I said, the issue with boxing, they're very obsessed with getting those big paydays. The only reason Breidis is calling it Jake Paul is probably his biggest payday. He probably gets paid way more than he does he. And then again, does he fight saying no Lawrence or Coley?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was going to say as well. So, where did this YouTube thing? Is it will it last? You reckon? Do you reckon it's a new normal boxing? Do you reckon more boxing will fight YouTube just for the payday and the notoriety? Where do you think this YouTube
I
thing is going?
I think Mayweather will keep doing this exhibition thing, but I think once Jake Paul loses, the novelty will wear off a little bit. I feel like it's kind of being romanticized at the minute because Jake Paul keeps winning, so it looks great. But once he takes a loss, and God forbid that it's a bad loss where he gets hurt, I think people will start to take a bit of a backward step.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I got a point there. When did we surprised that Tommy Fury backed out of Jake Paul fight, or because of this rumored chest infection? 'Cause a lot of people,
Yeah,
believe it or not, will actually think Jake Paul's actually going to knock Tommy Fury out. We want this guy that Tommy Fury is a novice, is an unproven fighter, and there's a chance that Jake Paul actually might knock Tommy out. Or
to be fair, I made it just like a 50-50. I had no idea because Tommy hasn't impressed me as a pro. Jake Paul doesn't impress me as a boxer. Um, Jake seems to take it a little bit more seriously than Tommy does, even though that sounds crazy. He does. He trains very hard. He seems to take the business side of things really seriously as well. And I don't get that impression from Tommy. I feel like he fights because that's all he's got. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know how it was going to go. But yeah, I'm not surprised that he pulled out because it was I don't know. I don't feel like the occasion was really built for him. I feel like it's more of a Jake Paul type occasion.
yeah, because definitely. Because actually, believe it or not, even though I'm a hardcore boxing fan, I was actually looking forward to the fight because I want to see what
Yeah,
Tommy
so
actually,
was I.
what it's actually capable of. Because I actually think Jake Paul probably been his toughest, test yet. Because like I said, Tommy's is unknown, and I don't know how good he is. He's pretty much, knocked over journeyman. So I know Jake Paul, he's not a boxer, but at least he's got some type of skill. He can, I guess, knock people out, and he can definitely got some type of talent. It's unproven still. So we see how it
Yeah,
goes. If Jake fight Tommy, it'll be a chicken fight. I'll still watch and see, but we see
yeah.
how it
So
goes. See what that saga continues. So in terms of fight for the year, what fight you looking forward to?
um, Estrada Chocolatito is the main one at the minute. Don't really know what will happen past that in terms of fights, but just in terms of the current schedule, that's the one for me
Yeah,
that we
definitely,
need to see.
definitely. For me, it's calm book. Even though they went past it, I just want to see the outcome of the fight. I want to see
Yeah,
how
the
that
intrigue's
will
still
end.
there.
'Cause
Yeah, definitely.
I want to see what happens when when they shake hands.
Yeah.
If either if it wins, it will be a draw or it end in controversy. I'm still intrigued. So can't book into the way past it, like 5, 10 years past it. I'm intrigued to see the winner or
Yeah.
the way the British rivalry. Anyways, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks very much, mate.
I know you're busy at the moment, so next time when you're definitely more available, like to have you on my channel again, and we can definitely
Yeah. Let's
have
do
other
it.
topics.
Cool.
Anyways, you take care. Bye. Bye now.
Mate.
Adios, amigo.